Hello everyone and welcome to the next in our series of daily origami for YouTube. Today we're going to kind of take some of the things we've been working on and put them together into a project for Easter. We're going to make a little basket that has a bunch of iris flowers inside. You could use it, of course, for goodies and candies and treats too. You can kind of change things up a bit as you make it. I'm just going to kind of show you guys some of the paper I picked and some of the steps I went through to kind of finish it off. Because this is sort of a craft project, you are going to be using some glue and some scissors occasionally to make some changes, but I'll try to tell you guys the size of the paper I'm using and stuff when we do get to things. I'm going to be making the basket, I should say, with some of this really thick paper, and I should have looked it up on Google to see if I could make sure I was pronouncing it right. It's either basil or basil, I'm not sure how you say it, but I know it's a craft paper that's used a lot for making like your own homemade cards, and also used in scrapbooking, for example. So I was able to get a nice big set of this at Costco when I was there. They don't normally sell it at just stores here in Japan, but it is really nice and thick, and the reason I picked it is because I do want a really sturdy basket. If you use origami paper and you make a smaller basket, because it's so small, the paper stands up good and you get a good, strong, sturdy basket in the end, like when we did the tutorial for that, which I'll show you guys a link to here. But when you actually make it bigger, the bigger you make it, the more flimsy things get. So you want to try to consider using thicker paper as you make something bigger. That can be hard. It's hard to find paper that's really massive that's also thick. It's real easy to find other papers like wrapping paper you can use that is pretty large, but I think you'd find that that is too flimsy and it's not going to hold the way you want it to. So you'd need to either reinforce it by putting an extra layer of paper with it, or gluing it and putting some like reinforcement bits of cardboard inside to keep things strong. The one challenge when using this kind of paper is that it's really not meant to be folded so much. So you really want to take your time and make sure you make really good creases when you make your creases. So I'm going to show you guys here, and I'm not going to go through every single step of how to make each of these pieces, because I'll link to the original tutorial for each of those items. But I do want to kind of point out some parts of how you might want to adjust your folding technique because of the thickness of the paper or the kind of paper you're using. So I'm starting off here with this paper, and it's 30 by 30 centimeters, just to let you guys know. So for the basket, for the base, mine's 30 by 30 centimeters. And then I'm actually going to be changing up the handle steps a little bit from what was in the tutorial, because the paper's so thick we don't really need to fold it over so many times. So I'll show you guys that step, and you don't want to waste this paper because it's really precious and cool, so we want to eliminate any extra folds that we're making that we could just get rid of by cutting. So we have our nice big paper here, and if there's a side that you prefer to have on the outside, you want to consider that. Looks like this side's a little smoother. This is more textured over here, so I'm going to make that my color side, for example. And we're just going to make a square base with this, so just folding in half. Now, when you do, like I said, when you're using these kinds of paper, you do want to try to make really good creases, start things off, and it is thick, so you can get some tools that help you make good creases. There's origami tools. I've never thought to get those because I don't think they're really that important, but I think you can get away with the same kind of thing by just using a ruler and kind of using that to help you along, or you can use nails if you have them, but it really destroys your fingernails when you use them for origami, so I don't want to encourage people to do that too much, but get a good crease and make sure you do that for all the creases. So it takes a little longer maybe than regular origami, because with that you can just kind of fold, and even hold things in your hand as you work. But because this paper is so thick, you do really want to take each step and get a good crease going first, so that you can get everything looking the way you want it to. So this is the square base here. Now, like I said, this paper, since it is thick, the creases and paper creases are not very forgiving. You don't want to make any mistakes. If you get a crease lined in here, you know, you're going to see that forever kind of showing there in the paper. So the next thing we want to do is take this outer part here and fold it down. Do the same thing on this side too. And I'm going to actually recommend making the entire box first, and then we're going to open it up and refold it to add the handle, just because creasing and folding with the handle connected can be really challenging. So we've got all of these parts folded down, and then we fold up. And fold up on this side too. And at this point in the original tutorial for this particular basket, you'd know that you stop for a second and make the handle and then slide that part in here to secure it, so that when you roll up you can kind of secure and hold the handle. But like I said, because the paper is so thick, what I want to do first is to just get the creases done first, make the box, and we'll open it up and start from that point again. So I'm just going to kind of fold down here to make it a little easier, so that when I fold up you don't see anything hiding, popping out from the top there. Good crease there. And do the same thing on this side. Good crease there. Then the next step is to fold into the center, and there's so much paper here. Just take your time, kind of help it along by rolling it with your finger to kind of create a smooth edge, so that when you bring it over here you can get a good crease without any bunching of anything there. Good crease there. And then what we're doing with that is reversing that behind, so you can open it up and fold it backwards. Do the same thing on this side too here. Again, just kind of rolling and smoothing along so that you can get a good crease going here. And then go ahead and tuck that behind. And then I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing on this side too. So I've got all that kind of pulled back, and it's okay that this feels a little tight. What we want to do next then is, if you look at the side here, we're going to fold this down. Now this step is a lot harder when you're actually working with the handle already in here, because it's kind of tucked inside here and it prevents you from opening up this side. So it's nice to kind of get a chance to make these creases first, and then we'll add the handle later. So get this tucked in really good. I'll do this side too. Just open up and fold right down along that edge. So we get something that kind of looks like this, an upside down little house kind of. And then for the next step, this is really tricky. We're going to take all of this and fold it up. And you know, this isn't really that essential that we get this perfect, because we can kind of really form the box later. So you could choose to skip this step if you want, but I think it helps to kind of get it at least sort of started by getting a little bit of a crease going for both ways. It's not going to stick, but to kind of just help it along so that when it opens up it can form the way we want to. And then we could just pop everything open here to find the center of our box. And then this is where we can go ahead and make the edges a little clearer defined by just kind of pinching along the sides as we work. Do the same thing over here. And that should really give us a nice finished box there. And then I'm going to take this part that you see here, and we're going to go ahead and reverse that crease so that it creases inside. Get a nice smooth edge along the edge there. And then we're going to wind up probably gluing down there so that it stays. I'm going to make this really a clear, sharp crease right along the edge there so that it can really tuck nice into the side. And I'll do the same thing over on the other side too. So we've got a really clearly defined base for our basket, getting all these creases marked off. And then we can go ahead and do the next step, which is working out the handle. And this is kind of how things are going to look, and the handle is going to be on the sides here, tucked underneath. So we're going to unfold everything and get ourselves back to the point we were at so that we can attach the creased handle to everything as we work. So as we know, we're working with a square base, so find those bases again really quick here. And once you found that, make sure you go open to the side that has those extra creases there running along the top. That's where the side's going to be. I'm going to fold up like this, and fold down and up, so that we get back to that part where we have that part which is going to latch the handle together there. Now I'm going to just put this to the side for a second, and then I've got my other piece of paper that I'm going to use for my handle. Now in the directions from the original tutorial for the basket, what you did was, not using any scissors, we just folded this in half and then folded it in half to create a door base and then folded in again. That's actually going to give us too much paper and too much thickness, to be honest. This paper is so thick that we really don't need to do that much. So I'm just going to start off, first of all, with just half this much paper here. And I'm not even sure if that might even still be too much. And this is a part too where you can kind of decide. I think the handle for the original is a little on the thick side, so let's see here. Let's first just worry about cutting this in half here. So this is that paper that I had cut in half, and I've tried it out once the way just by folding it over into fourths, and I still think this is too thick. It's not going to create a nice curve that I want for my handle, so I'm just going to actually cut it in half again, just giving me a fourth of my paper size, and then that's going to give me the handle that I want for my basket. You can kind of play around with the shape, the weight of the paper you're using too, to make sure you're getting something that's still going to create a nice bend. This really is so thick that if I double it up too many times, it's not going to roll around the way I want it to. So play around with that a little bit, and don't hesitate to, unfold and start again to try to get the size you want. I'm going to wind up using for the handle a piece of paper. Oops, there needs to be an L there. Hello. That's 30 by 7.5 centimeters. That's already clear there. It says the handle. That's kind of the size I'm going to use for this. Make sure I said that right. Yep, 7.5. Okay. So I'm just going to fold it in half, basically, and that's going to create the handle that I need. Now, to keep things kind of together, I'm going to go ahead and put a bit of glue just so that I have a nice finished piece. When you're dealing with thicker paper and bigger projects, I really think if you're looking for something that has that really nice finished effect, you're going to want to use some glue. If you're a hardcore origami person who does the purist style only, you probably don't want to do this craft project to begin with. But you are going to probably not want to be using glue. But I think it's not that bad, and especially for craft projects like this is actually a really good thing. So I'm going to just kind of guide it along a little with my fingers, kind of help it curve around, creating a little bend along the edge to even start it now so that I can get the shape that I need it to go in here. And then that gives me a base that's not so massively thick with layers of paper that will cause it to be really hard to catch when I fold it together in here. Now I want to kind of take care so that I don't accidentally create a crease here. Now in the original tutorial they told you to fold in half and then you could put your handle in. I really want to avoid hurting my paper and actually causing it to create a full out crease, so I'm just going to try to kind of get a feel for how far I can come down here. Generally, you should be able to have it extend just a tad beyond. If you look at this crease here and you open it up, you should be able to get it just right in here about when you put it in. And I'm going to go ahead and just start off things with some glue so that I can get kind of the effect that I'm looking for here. Put a little bit of glue right here. Get that sort of started. Try to line it up into the center as much as you can, of course. And then put a little bit more here too. Now, of course, the crease is going to help too, but it's going to be working a lot easier and better and last longer if you've put some glue. And then, as a little last bit, we'll go ahead and get the crease going first to include with this handle here. And if you find, I'm finding when I do this, it's actually shifting. I'm going to take that creased edge here and help it along first by folding it up a little bit. And then that way, when I try to bring all this up, it will fold up with it. Just get a little bit of it there. You should get a nice little fat bump down there at the bottom because you've snagged it. And then I'm just going to put a bit of glue here too to kind of finish off this side. And that should give a really nice secure edge to our basket. I'm going to turn it over and do the same kind of thing on this side too. So again, I could put a little bit of glue up here. Bring this down, again trying to get it kind of lined up there. And then also take just that tiny little bit to fold up so that it's even with that crease to kind of help it along a little bit. Give it a little crease there. And then go ahead and put a bunch of glue here. My rooster is so loud, I'm sorry. He like crows all day long. Doesn't care what time of day it is. So I've got the handle secured in there now. And that's going to help keep everything the way I want it to here. And as you're working, if you find that, for example, my glue's not dried yet, of course, by any means, so you could put just a tiny couple of paper clips here to sort of keep it in place so that by the time everything is done, the glue will have dried and it'll keep that from popping out a little bit there. This side too. Now we're just going to go through and take care of the folds we've already made here from before. And this step should go fairly easy. We've got these sides that I'm just going to tuck behind again and do the same thing over here. And do the same thing on these sides as well. And then we're going to take that middle part and pop them down again. And we've got the bottom already secured with that crease, so we could just kind of pop everything out to create the base of our basket. You can see we got a really nice, pretty base here now. And a nice smooth edge from our paper without any creases. And then I'm going to take those flaps again and get them to tuck inside here. And at this point, if you're using flimsier paper, putting a nice bit of cardboard down here can really make all the difference in the world to make your project stay together and stand stronger. So if you are using flimsy, like kind of flimsy paper, I'd recommend putting a cardboard base at the bottom. You could choose to make it like a nice color cardboard or thicker paper, and if you put it way down underneath, you can get this kind of cool pattern with this part laying on top. It'll give you color here and then kind of a cardboard color on the other side. Or you can put these flaps down first and then put the heavier paper on top to create a full square base at the bottom. But I'm going to just get that in there a little bit. This side too. And this is certainly too, again, where if you're using flimsier paper, these sides might pop out, you won't get a nice sharp edge. So you might want to kind of play around with that a little and see what kind of paper you're using and what kind of results you get from that, because we do want to try to get a really nice solid kind of feel to our basket. So that's sort of the finished basket. I'm going to leave my little paper clips on there to help it kind of hold its glue for a little bit. And depending on your style and your point of preference, if you want to create a really sharp kind of finished feel to your basket, you can go in and put some glue right in here on these flaps and secure on the sides. If you prefer keeping the look that it's sort of folded from origami, you can leave those to kind of poof out and show where the creases are. So it's just point of preference for that. But that's a finished basket. I'll put that to the side. Now the next thing I wanted to do, I was just going to put some cute little sort of accents on the side right by the handles, and I was going to make a little butterfly to put on either side to kind of make things look pretty. Now I have this paper here that's from the paper I showed in one of my paper reviews actually. It's a Finalizing chiogami, which means this is a special kind of printed, handmade washi paper that has sort of a raised feel, almost like a felt book kind of, if you would, and the outline of these areas is raised and then with the regular printed design underneath. Now this paper feels almost kind of soft and moist when you're folding it. Doesn't really create really sharp edges, so you want to try to be a little patient as you fold with it. Of course, you don't want to create really harsh creases, because what you can wind up doing is causing the paper to fray. So you want to kind of just smoosh it down gently as you work along. But this is basically what we're looking for. I wanted to kind of create a little butterfly that could just kind of sit right on the edge as a little accent to my basket. And I tried to pick a paper that had, you know, similar kind of feel with the pink and, you know, a little green for good Easter colors. Those are kind of up to you. But I took my regular size 15 by 15 centimeter paper and cut it into fourths, and I'm only going to be making 2 butterflies. So I'll put the link here for you guys to see. I'll fold one now, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it so well. So you can kind of see the original tutorial if you need some help along with that. I'm going to make 2 of those, like I said. So you have 2 little butterflies to put on either side. So you can kind of play around and choose, you know, which piece, which has more color that you want to have shown. I'm going to just use one of these here, kind of show you guys the steps. The butterfly is pretty easy here. We just kind of fold in half to make a triangle both ways. And this part can be a little tricky because when you're doing these, you can't see your creases so easily, so you kind of really need to look at it carefully to kind of see, make sure you're getting every of these points folded in towards the center. It can be a little tricky to use this kind of paper in that sense, because you don't have the guides as clear as you would if you're using regular paper. But we're going to fold all 4 sides into the center, and then I'm going to fold into the center again. And this is a part that can be pretty tricky because the crease is very faint. But once you get this kind of going, you should get a good feel for it. And really, this paper is so delicate, you want to avoid putting too much pressure on it until the very end, and then you can really kind of finalize some of your creases to make nice sharp edges. But I'm going to open everything up, looking at that the color side facing down. I'm just going to take opposite sides here, folding into the center, kind of reversing the crease that's already there. Do the other side too. And then I'm going to use the creases that are in here to help me create kind of a boat base. So I've got a diagonal crease here. I'm just going to fold out on that on this side, and also fold out on that on the top here, and then just kind of fold everything down, pushing out these sides to create a nice point. And this is where you can kind of adjust things if stuff didn't come together quite right, to try to get a good little point on the side if you can help it. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side too. So get 2 boat bases going here, like so. And then I'm going to fold it in half backwards and get things kind of lined up. Don't worry if stuff kind of is sticking out a little bit weird. Everything kind of comes together with this butterfly pretty good in the end. So I'm going to choose which side here I want to have fold down. You can kind of play with it and see, because of the colors, of which one you want. This is actually the underside of the butterfly, so you can kind of look and see if, oh, this is the color you wanted, or if you were preferring to have it look more like that. Depends on your preference. I'm going to actually keep it the other way. Probably doesn't seem like it's really that different, but and then from here we're going to take and create a crease that goes from the top and comes just to a random point down here. That determines kind of the shape of your wing. This is definitely a crease you want to get really good and strong because this part does need to stay over if it can. So I'll get both of these kind of going here. Like so. And then I'm going to take and fold things in half. And we're going to create a little crease that goes right from here up. And this definitely is a part where you're not going to get a really strong crease because of the kind of paper I'm using. It's going to be more of kind of a smush than a crease, if you will. But kind of just get a feel for it and get both sides folded over so that you get a little tiny bit in the center that just kind of pokes up a little bit to create this angle for our butterfly. And once you've got that completed, we're going to use this little butterfly then for our decoration on our basket. So I could take one of these little guys and glue it then on the side here at the angle that I prefer. I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of glue on the back wings here to help me along. Now because the center part is 3D, you're going to want to kind of use the glue to help make sure that the butterfly doesn't lay flat. When the butterfly lays flat, you lose that little angle and the little opening down there on the bottom part of the wings. So you want to try to kind of get things started here with one side and then really kind of pinch in to allow that top part to stick up a little bit. I don't know if you can see that angle. But if we can get that to glue down good like that and secure it, then we can have that little bit of 3D sticking up and you get that nice opening then of the wing down there at the bottom. I'm just going to do that for my other one too here. And you can certainly have a lot of fun with this and put butterflies all over. You could put little bunnies. You can do all sorts of different decorations for your basket if you wanted to, or you can leave things kind of simple. I'm just going to kind of keep things a little simple this time around and focus more on the design of stuff here. But, you know, this is a great time to use tiny little bits of scrap paper that you might have, or, you know, you've only got one sheet like I did. I only have one sheet of this color of this design. This is a great time to use this in a project because I can have a little bit of splash of color and a pretty display of the design and get a little bit there going for my butterfly. So that's sort of the finished little basket effect. And then I'm going to fill it with iris flowers. Now, I've made a few already. Where's my other one? Here it is, down on the floor. I just kind of used the paper I have. I went ahead and used some tant paper, or tant, I don't know how you say it in English. We say tanto in Japanese, but I just took a bunch of the lighter sort of shades of cream and light pink to create some iris. And I'm going to make one more too with the last piece here and show you guys how to curl the petals. But then, you know, we can kind of just put these in here to sort of create a really loose sort of decoration of flowers to kind of create a basket that you can use for a table setting, to give somebody as a gift, all sorts of good ways that you can use this. So, so I'm just going to show you guys really quick first how to make the iris. Now I'll put the link for the original too, of course, if you want to see that, because that's probably easier to see than with white paper, obviously. But the top paper is not that thick, but it does need to have a little bit of help as you're doing some of the creases to make sure everything comes together well. I'm going to be just using the regular size paper. That turns out to fit pretty good into the basket. So the iris is going to be 15 by 15 centimeters. And I made 5. You could really actually make a few more, I think, and make the basket feel really full if you wanted to. I just ran out of time, but I thought I wanted to kind of give you guys the feel of everything. So the top paper really doesn't have such a clear front or back, I don't think so much, but we're just going to go ahead and start off with the square base here with things. And like I said, I'll show you guys the link here to the original tutorial for the iris, because this is kind of hard to see all these steps, and I'll go ahead and fast forward through here until the end to kind of show you. But when you use this kind of paper, just as a tip, you want to try to, because especially it's white too, you want to be careful that you're not slowly creating, you know, a mess of crease marks and fingerprints on everything when you're done. So make sure you start off with really clean hands and try not to crease too many times because it can kind of dirty up things along the bottom. But try to create a really good crease. Now in the beginning, these first creases, you know, there's not that much paper, so it's not too hard to do. Kind of guide it along a little bit first to help you along as you do things. But get things kind of moving along here with this one. Kind of gotten some of the steps completed here. And we're down to the very last bit where you need to fold, once you've got this nice diamond area on top, you need to fold that outer edge into the center. And with this paper, it certainly is a little thicker than origami paper though, so you're going to really, at these last steps, need to take your time and make a good clean crease so that you can get this sharp, clean form of the flower when you're done. So try your best to kind of make good creases as you work, and if you need help along with some of it, you can, like I said, use a ruler to kind of help you along. You don't want to use anything too sharp because what you'll wind up doing is kind of hurting the paper as you go. And this part is especially, these flowers are especially known for that. The bottom part down here can get a lot of wear and tear because it gets so many creases put into it. But we'll kind of work our way around here to kind of get the shape of the flower here. So we get all that kind of creased over. It's pretty thick. You want to really make sure you get kind of things shaped off there. And then we're going to fold down these petals to create the finished piece of the iris. And then I'll show you guys what I did to kind of curl mine. If you want to curl yours, I think it tends to make it look kind of pretty. And the nice thing too is it creates sort of like a little hook that'll keep the flowers sort of standing up nice in your basket, which is nice too. So we get all four of those sides sort of folded over, and you see we've got the nice center. It creates almost sort of like a pyramid kind of base, three-dimensional, and then we've got the nice flower sticking out. I like to find like a really thin pen that'll work good for this. And rather than starting at the tip, I try to curl first from the outer part because otherwise you'll wind up kind of getting this curled tip and then this outer part will be really flat. So I like to kind of work my way back out to the tip first, and then from there create a little curl. And you know, depending on how much curl you want to add to it, but I like to just sort of start the smoothing down there at the base of the flower and then get everything to kind of curl out. And I think sometimes it looks a little nicer if you don't try to make it perfect in the center every time, you know, to kind of alternate before kind of going a little to the right and a little to the left, for example. Kind of creates a little bit more of a natural feel for your flower. But we'll just kind of roll it along that edge to get it sort of smoothed out. And then we get a little bit more realistic looking little iris. And then we've got our basket here. I could take the flowers that I've got there, all the different colors. Certainly just using all the same color would look fine too. I kind of worked with what I had. Don't have a whole lot in terms of the same color from that set. So I tried to kind of keep things, you know, sort of variety of colors that kind of had a similar theme to them if I could. But, and then you just kind of arrange them inside any way you like. Certainly if you had like some grass like you use for Easter baskets, you could put some in here if you wanted to. That's sort of a point of preference. I think, yeah, some green grass in here would look really pretty too. But I'm just kind of using, like I said, using the hooks that I have here to kind of keep things in place before I put that final one kind of in the middle to sort of keep everything held off there inside. But this kind of gives you a really pretty sort of decorative basket then for if you're having like a Easter dinner party or something like that. Really kind of a pretty way to do stuff, or you can certainly use this for goodies and jelly beans and chocolate eggs, whichever way you prefer. But that is our kind of finished basket, which is our finished project for today. And I'll make sure to put in the description all the different links to all the other parts that were used in this tutorial, as well as the dimensions that I used. But you can really have a lot of fun with it and play around and get stuff the size and shape that you want. with a little bit of math, of course. So I hope everyone has a wonderful Easter on Sunday, and yeah, see you guys tomorrow for another tutorial too. So thanks so much for watching.